Enough is enough for Spain. It's been watching Putin's forces attempt to rampage through Ukraine for over 4 years, and it has supported Ukraine throughout the war. Now, Spain has delivered a crushing blow. With its latest aid package, Spain has delivered exactly what Ukraine needs to deal with the Russian aerial threat and help Ukraine to carry out its counterattacks on the ground. Putin has just become powerless, and it's all because Spain is delivering exactly what Ukraine needs. The news broke on April 22nd. Spain is set to deliver 100 VAMTAC armored tactical vehicles to Ukraine, along with an unspecified stockpile of 155mm artillery ammunition. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense announced the shipment, which it says will begin in May, in an official press release that followed a meeting between Ukraine's Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov and his Spanish counterpart Margarita Robles. The Ukrainian side thanked Spain for its decision to allocate €1 billion in assistance in 2026. During the meeting, the parties discussed the most effective use of these resources in accordance with Ukraine's priorities, the ministry said, revealing just how much Spain is going to have spent on helping Ukraine by the end of 2026. €1 billion roughly equates to $1.15 billion, meaning this is a substantial aid package, both in terms of the equipment Ukraine will be getting and money that Spain has poured into it. Robles added to the dogpile on Putin and his forces. According to Pravda, she revealed that more than 9,000 soldiers would receive training from Spanish forces by the end of April. She also added a very pointed message to Putin about what Spain is doing with these moves. This cooperation demonstrates our country's commitment to defending democratic values, freedom, and a just and lasting peace. Translation: Putin, you've pushed your luck for too long, and it's time to get out of Ukraine. Here's where it gets serious for Putin. The weapons Spain will start delivering from May aren't simply leftovers pulled from its stockpiles. They're weapons and vehicles that Ukraine needs to counterattack very specific threats, meaning that they've been carefully chosen and prepared for Ukraine. You'll see why when we go into more detail about what the VAMTAC is, but we'll give you a little clue about the aspect of the war where this vehicle will shine first. Ahead of the meeting between Fedorov and Robles, Spain had made another delivery to Ukraine. March 30th brought with the news that Spain had sent 5 Patriot PAC-2 interceptor missiles, each valued at between $3 and $4 million. That transfer came at a time when Ukraine was dealing with a bottleneck in its Patriot missile supplies caused by rising demand for the missiles that had resulted from Operation Epic Fury. Spain gave Ukraine a vital air defense stopgap with the transfer of missiles from its own artillery units. With 100 VAMTAC vehicles, it's just made a massive contribution to Ukraine's air defense network. Our description of the VAMTAC as an armored tactical vehicle doesn't really do full justice to what this piece of equipment has to offer. But to understand why, we need to dig into another piece of equipment that Ukraine has been using to defend its skies. The UK-made Rapid Ranger has been playing a key role inside Ukraine for much of the war. The platform, which is mobile, automated, and designed to take out aerial threats like drones at extremely close range, offers full 360-degree situational awareness wherever it's deployed. It's also modular. United 24 Media notes that the Rapid Ranger can be equipped with a variety of radar systems that allow it to operate both independently and as part of a wider air defense network. Plus, it can be fitted with a panoramic infrared sensor that allows it to detect targets beyond the standard 15-kilometer or 9.3-mile range that the Rapid Ranger has. The Rapid Ranger also uses Martlet lightweight multi-role missiles, or LMMs, to take out targets. That missile can engage an incoming threat at a range of up to 7 kilometers or 4.3 miles, and it uses a combination of infrared and laser guidance to ensure that it scores direct hits. That applies even in cases when the incoming target has a low thermal signature, which is often the case for Russia's long-range strike drones. Ukraine has a lot of these missiles. It received hundreds of them almost half a year ahead of schedule back in October, and it'll likely be getting hundreds more from the UK in the coming months. That's all great, you might be thinking, but what does any of this have to do with the VAMTAC? One line from United 24 Media's report reveals all. In Ukrainian service, Rapid Ranger units are often installed on Spanish-made URO VAMTAC tactical vehicles, which can reach speeds of up to 135 kilometers an hour and quickly reposition across large distances, the outlet reports. And just like that, everything makes sense. Spain hasn't just provided any old vehicles to Ukraine. It's going to deliver 100 vehicles that are battle-proven to be compatible with one of the most important air defense systems that Ukraine has been using to fend off Russia's drones and missiles. The UK delivers the air defenses and the missiles. Spain provides the missiles that make that air defense system an incredibly powerful threat against Putin's campaign of aerial strikes. It's a 1-2 punch that Putin should have seen coming. After all, this is precisely the kind of cooperation and systems integration that we should be expecting from a pair of NATO partners that share the goal of helping Ukraine battle against Putin's tyranny. Let's zoom in on the VAMTAC itself for a moment. The UK certainly recognizes how valuable Spain's vehicle is. Back in August 2025, Army Recognition revealed that the UK had announced plans in July 2024 to purchase more VAMTACs from Spain. Why? So it could load Rapid Ranger air defense systems onto them, just as we're seeing Ukraine do right now. The VAMTAC is the perfect vehicle for the job. Roughly comparable to the US-made Humvee, it's a 4x4 vehicle that is designed to offer maximum mobility over many different types of terrain. Though it was introduced in the late 90s, the VAMTAC has gone through several updates over the years, suggesting a level of modularity that enables the user to tweak the vehicle to their needs. What was once a vehicle designed for troop transport, special operations, and reconnaissance has now evolved into an air defense behemoth that can be fitted with systems capable of firing both LMMs or high-velocity missiles, or HVMs. Oh, and the VAMTAC isn't just used for air defense. The vehicle is incredibly versatile on the weaponry front. Beyond the Rapid Ranger and similar air defense systems, a VAMTAC can be loaded with a 7.62mm machine gun, 40mm grenade launchers, 81mm mortars, or a 106mm recoilless rifle. Ukraine can also pack it with anti-tank guided missiles, essentially creating a highly mobile tank killer that can drive circles around Russia's metal monstrosities before delivering a powerful dose of explosives to take them out of the game. In terms of mobility, we've already mentioned that a VAMTAC can hit a top speed of 135 km per hour, which is almost 84 miles per hour. That's fast for an armored vehicle. The gas tank gives it a 600 km or 372 mile range, which is also important on the air defense front. It means that a VAMTAC equipped with a Rapid Ranger can be sent to a site, reel off its missiles, and then ride for miles to get to another site to do the same. Snow, mud, ice, sand, and rocky terrain can't stop the VAMTAC in its tracks either. It can make its escape or move to the next location without having to worry about getting caught up on anything that would make it vulnerable to a Russian reprisal. And somehow it gets even better. Slopes aren't an issue either. The VAMTAC can ride up slopes of 70%. It can also cross water with a depth of 750mm as standard, or 1,500mm with special preparation. That's almost 5 feet of water that is unable to stand in the way of this Spanish vehicle. The point we're making with all of this is simple. Spain is delivering 100 of the most versatile armored vehicles that Ukraine's allies have to offer. And don't forget the 155mm artillery rounds. Unfortunately, neither Ukraine's Ministry of Defense nor any of the reports of Spain's latest donations specify how many of these rounds Ukraine will be getting. Those rounds are compatible with a number of Western artillery systems that Ukraine has, in addition to the Bodana self-propelled howitzer that Ukraine itself has developed. Again, we see integration and cooperation. First, it was UK air defense systems with Spanish vehicles, then Spanish artillery rounds with Ukrainian artillery systems. What we see here is the strengthening of a relationship between Spain and Ukraine that was already rock solid before. Now the foundation that was already in place is being built upon. But before we get to that, we have to dig deeper into what this latest delivery offers to Ukraine on the battlefield. And ahead of that, this is your quick reminder that you are watching The Military Show. If this is the kind of insight that you want to see, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you never miss out on one of our videos. So we get that the VAMTAC is going to be useful for Ukraine when confronting the aerial challenge that Russia presents. How useful is revealed when we take a closer look at the numbers. In March alone, Ukraine's defense ministry reported that Russia launched 6,462 drones and 138 missiles of various types into its territory. Ukraine did a stellar job of intercepting most of these projectiles. 5,833 of the drones and 102 of the missiles fell to Ukraine's fire and electronic warfare systems. Of all the attacks that Russia launched in March, its March 24th strike was the most fearsome. An overwhelming 948 drones and 34 missiles blanketed Ukraine's skies on that day. March was far from a one-off. Over the course of the Ukraine invasion, we've seen Russia ramping up its drone and missile strikes to an insane degree. 2025 seemed to be when Putin's aerial campaign evolved from bad to something truly terrible for Ukraine. During the first 6 months of 2025, the number of projectiles involved in Russia's airstrikes gradually rose from an average of somewhere between 50 to 100 up to an average that was veering close to 200 projectiles. Then the summer hit and the drone and missile campaign got much worse. Some single-day strikes started veering close to 500 projectiles in June. From July, Russia launched several strikes that involved upwards of 600 drones, including several strikes that exceeded 700 projectiles. Russia has been ramping up its aerial campaign. It's building more Shahid-type drones and decoys than ever before, and it's combining its enormous drone swarms with missiles in clear attempts to overwhelm Ukraine's air defenses. It's here where VAMTACs with air defenses become really important. The combination of mobility and firepower that these vehicles deliver to Ukraine allows the country to strengthen its air defense network at a time when Putin seems to be relying on airstrikes to weaken Ukraine's rear so that Russia can exploit the damage caused on the battlefield. This is all simple wartime mathematics. The fewer drones and missiles that hit Ukraine's cities, infrastructure and logistics in the rear, the stronger the defense Ukraine can mount against Russia's ground assaults becomes. Ukraine's air defenses were far from weak before the arrival of this latest batch of VAMTACs. As the Center for European Policy Analysis, or CEPA, pointed out in an April 13th piece, Ukraine's air defenses are already world-class and they're getting better. The introduction of interceptor drones has been massive for Ukraine's ability to deal with Russia's Shahid-type strike drones. They've also been doing a number on Russia's FPV drones and similar unmanned vehicles, leading to Ukraine claiming 33,000 targets downed by these innovative weapons in March alone. CEPA notes that Ukraine's interception rate has been getting better and better. Back in the fall of 2025, some months saw up to 19% of Russia's drones reach their targets. By March, that number was down to an average of 8%, and Ukraine has a goal of stopping at least 95% of Russia's drones and missiles in their tracks through the creation of a layered air defense system. The VAMTAC, armed with rapid-range air defenses, fits into the layered approach perfectly. It's a short-range drone killer that can mop up Russian drones that manage to evade interceptors and other defenses that Ukraine has in place. It's all about having as many options as possible for Ukraine. And of course, the fact that Ukraine can equip its 100 new VAMTACs with a whole bunch of other weapons that make it useful for ground operations opens up all sorts of opportunities beyond mere defense. Speaking of operations on the ground, that's where the artillery rounds Ukraine is receiving from Spain come into play. That ammunition helps Ukraine in two ways: boosting its kill zone defense strategy and helping it to conduct its counteroffensive. A lot has been said about Ukraine's kill zones on this very channel. Stretching for miles, kill zones combine ground-based defenses such as barbed wire, mines, and anti-tank ditches, with a constant threat of FPV drones flying around in their hundreds on the lookout for any Russian soldiers stupid enough to stray into the kill zones. Naturally, a smart Russian commander, and there doesn't seem to be many of those left in the war, will order their soldiers to avoid these kill zones as much as possible. Ukraine wants that to happen. Many of the defenses that it places on the ground are there to funnel Russian soldiers into specific pathways that lead them into clearings and ambush spots. What happens next? Drones and artillery fire rain down, ripping through Russian troops and armor like nobody's business. Ukraine has plenty of the drones it needs to keep up this strategy. The country's aim is to build 7 million drones in 2026 alone. That, combined with its partnerships with several European countries, will keep the unmanned aerial threat high in the ambush spots that Ukraine creates. What Ukraine needs is as many artillery rounds as it can get its hands on to make its ambushes as lethal as they can possibly be. Spain's latest round of aid feeds into an ammunition pipeline that is also being supported by the Czech initiative and Ukraine's own domestic artillery production. Then there's Ukraine's counteroffensive. Since Russia lost access to Starlink back in February, Ukraine's ground forces have been launching counterattacks in the south of the country that have retaken massive amounts of territory. By the beginning of April, the commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces, Oleksandr Syrskyi, was reporting that Ukraine had liberated 12 settlements and retaken 480 square kilometers, or around 185 square miles, of territory. Ukraine has achieved this by taking advantage of communications chaos in the grey zones that stretch beyond the front lines. Search and destroy squads supported by drones are taking out Russian infiltrators who had a tenuous grasp on the territory they'd claimed in the first place. As for Russia's stronger defenses, artillery can play a huge role. It only takes a reconnaissance drone spotting a Russian position for Ukraine to have all of the information that it needs to launch a combined artillery and drone strike against that position. Again, ammunition is needed to make those types of strikes happen. Spain has just provided that ammo along with its VAMTACs, and in doing so, it may well help Ukraine to claw back more of its territory from Russia as Putin tries to push forward with his failing spring offensive. All of this will have Putin raging. But the real problem for Russia is this: Spain's latest donation is yet another sign that Putin's many efforts to create division between Ukraine and its Western partners are failing. Other notes from the meeting between Fedorov and Robles involve both making a commitment to scale up their defense cooperation with a particular focus on air defenses and long-range munitions, RBC Ukraine reports. Both nations have identified protecting Ukraine's skies as a priority, and that means that the VAMTACs that could help with Ukraine's air defenses are far from the only thing that Spain is looking to provide. Do you remember the 5 Patriot interceptor missiles we mentioned earlier in the video? According to RBC Ukraine, Spain is now working with Ukraine on supplying as many Patriot systems as possible, along with the integration of various types of weapons to boost Ukraine's defenses. The Pearl mechanism that was set up to enable NATO nations to purchase US-made weapons for Ukraine will be vital to these efforts, Fedorov added. Even before all of this, Spain had made it very clear that it believes that working with Ukraine is the best way to deal with Putin's aggression. In August 2025, Spain's Foreign Minister José Manuel Albares laid all of this out. The best security guarantee for Ukraine so far today, talking with reality on the ground, is to reinforce the Ukrainian army, because that's what's providing today safety, sovereignty, freedom for Ukraine. And that's what we are doing, providing military equipment to make sure that the Ukrainian army is capable of guaranteeing sovereignty and territorial integrity for Ukraine, Albares declared. What he didn't say, but what can be implied from his statement, is that Spain understands that Ukraine is the first line of defense against a Russian military that has designs on more of Europe. If Ukraine fails, NATO has a problem. Supplying Ukraine now means that Russia can't push into the rest of Europe. Fast forward to March 18th, and there was more evidence of the growing ties between Ukraine and Spain. Ukraine chose that date to announce the signing of 5 new bilateral agreements with Spain that will see the two countries work on joint defense production and railway modernization, in addition to cooperating on various financial matters. Putin doesn't want to see things like this happening. His invasion was supposed to cause the rest of Europe to descend into bureaucratic chaos as Russia rolled through Ukraine. Instead, Putin has only succeeded in making Ukraine stronger, both militarily and in terms of its position as a powerful geopolitical player. So the latest aid donation from Spain will have major ramifications on the battlefield. But it's the message behind the metal that will worry Putin most of all. Spain is still Ukraine's ally, and there is nothing that Russia can do about it. Deepening ties between Ukraine and Spain are just part of a much broader development of cooperation between Ukraine and its European partners to combat Russian aggression. In Eastern Europe, and especially in Bulgaria, moves are being made that could shape the entire European security landscape for years to come. Those moves involve Ukraine, and you can find out how by watching our video. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you are subscribed to the Military Show so you can catch the latest analysis of the developments in Ukrainian and European security. And thank you, as always, for watching.